This is Anthony Biondo reporting for MMASportsNet, the network for fighters by fighters. We're here in Long Island, New York, in Franklin Square at American Top Team, headed by David Martucci. We're covering here a little spotlight on his facility, as well as two fighters that are preparing for up-and-coming bouts, American Top Team's Ryan Peterson and Alpha Omega's Christian Defiris.
You know what I mean?
I don't know how this is. I don't know. I understand. I think I pulled that shit on all the students, and then once they come in, they're too scared. They're like,
get a sweat going, you know. Hands, kicks. I mean, stay in there, just do it exactly, just like that. Just get a, yeah, just to get yourself warmed up. Yeah, that's better. At least that thing won't move around so much, right, you know? No? Submissions, if you got them, throw them in there.
More rounds, huh?
Go. You gotta work, Ryan. It's not jujitsu, you gotta work. Go, work. Keep working. Light knees. Don't hit them hard, but light knees. Keep working. You alright, Chris?
Yeah, I'm gassed.
Alright, give him a second. That takedown, take everything out of you. I know, I saw you working hard for it. That's alright, man. Breathe, breathe. You wanna sit? Yeah, get your head together, keep them controlled, and then you can explode up, do your explosive movement, go back down, get your head together. Just a little bit of roll.
Yeah, I'm tired.
You had a granola bar or something? I need nothing.
We're here at American Top Team in Franklin Square. We're here with the proprietor of American Top Team, Dave Martucci. How are you, Dave?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How long have you been at this location?
Been here 2 years.
And how's it working out for you?
Great neighborhood, love Franklin Square. We came from New Hyde Park. We were over there for about 5 years. Before that, Garden City. So we're doing our little tour of Long Island, but Franklin Square I think is going to be our home for a while.
Wonderful, wonderful. It's really a beautiful, well-thought-out facility. I see you've taken a lot of time and effort to really take care of all the details of the facility. That come from experience, or, you know, is it something you have a passion for? It looks like you have a passion for design.
I definitely have a passion for it. It was trial and error. You know, like I said, we were in Garden City for a while. I learned a lot of stuff there, in you know, kind of like a warehouse facility. Learned that that stuff kind of works on the West Coast. I've trained a lot on the West Coast. It does not work on the East Coast. Heat and stuff like that, whole different demographic out here when it comes to utility bills. So, you know, learned, downsized it, and got a little bit more of a retail space in New Hyde Park, which was great. And then we kind of needed to expand a little bit more. So along that road, I learned all the do's and don'ts and how to actually incorporate a fighting sport with the general public so you can offer personal training and all sorts of other fitness stuff. It's a lot more complicated than people think. You know, you have fighters, a very interesting demographic.
I happen to agree with you. A lot of times people don't realize that fighting is great, but quite often fighters don't have the capital necessary to sustain a business. The general public is where you want to really look to develop that. As far as your background, you said you out on the West Coast. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
It started out with, again, the West Coast, Master Toddy. Trained over there with him for a very, very long time. He's now permanently in Thailand, so we kind of miss him. But that was actually my core background, was him, and my Muay Thai experience over there. Opened up originally as a Muay Thai camp, not as an MMA gym. And it was a progression. Just like the sport progressed, I actually progressed in it, and, you know, moved on to train with Pat Miletich, which is out in Iowa. Got a lot of good, you know, submission grappling skills from him, and wrestling, and pretty much how to put it together. He's a pioneer pretty much of putting it together. So I went to the source, and that was a little bit easier for the travel. You know what I mean? Iowa to Vegas, Iowa was a little bit easier getting out there. And then finally, you know, ended up at home with American Top Team. We really refined, you know, the training of MMA, the jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. Along the way, I've trained with one of Henzo's professional fighters, Brian Vittel. Really opened up my eyes to a whole nother game when it came to jiu-jitsu for MMA. So that's pretty much been the road of it, and we're kind of here now, and got a great team and good instructors, and we're looking forward for MMA to come legal in New York.
Well, you have a very interesting pedigree. That's some of the foundation of the whole industry, Militich and the Gracies and so on. As far as working out with Militich, Pat Militich, he was a pioneer in the sport. As compared to working with, let's say, some of the Gracie camp. Do you see any difference in their approach or how they put things together?
Yeah, very big difference in approach. Pat's gym was an amazing space, had an amazing amount of champions there. At the time I was training there, I think there was 4 or 5 world champions. So it was basically a think tank. It was a think tank, and it was a little less organized, I would say, than what I was exposed to with American Top Team or training with Brian Vitale, who was trained on the Henzo. That was a little bit more organized training, but the toughness and the work ethic and that wrestler mentality that I was able to absorb in that room and now pass on to my students, I believe, just training 100% with that mentality, I don't think is necessarily the silver bullet. But I think it's a really important part of the training. If you were never exposed to that type of element, it's going to be a big disadvantage you not having that. You know what I mean? I think it's very important to have that core, hardcore wrestler mentality, good work ethic, understanding that the facility and the fighter needs the weight training in there. So it's the reason why we have the full weight room and all personal trainers and strength and conditioning coaches. So it's kind of like 2 different approaches on it. But it's like MMA. It's a mixture of everything. It was just, to have one without the other, I think you're doing yourself an injustice,
That's a very interesting insight. 2 questions. Do you think that wrestler's mentality, because we do start out, the kids here in America, at such a young age wrestling, to develop that mentality, do you think that has been an important ingredient to the success of the American athlete in MMA?
I mean, hands down, that goes without saying. I think we have a huge advantage with the American wrestling, and I think it's actually proven itself right now. It's come full circle in the UFC that pretty much all our dominant guys right now are pretty much have a huge, strong wrestling background. It's an excellent foundation for a coach, speaking as a coach and a fighter, but speaking as a coach, it's an excellent foundation to work with, to add your jiu-jitsu on, to add your boxing and your Thai and teach them head movement and stuff like that. It's just, it makes it a better experience because no matter what, they might just have a shot or a single, whatever they have this drive and this work ethic that's instilled in them in college, high school, even at high school level, even if they don't move on to college. It's just this drive and this work ethic that's just instilled as a child. And, it speaks for itself, like I said, in the UFC and all the bigger promotions, who the champions are and what kind of backgrounds they have,
Right. That's a very interesting insight. Let me ask you this, because you really started out with the Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Now, Muay Thai has a certain aspect to it too, as far as work ethic, mental toughness. How do you feel that relates? Because I know the wrestler does have a certain mentality, a grind you out, a persistency, but also Muay Thai has also a very profound work ethic and a toughness element to it. How do you think they compare? Are there similarities? Do you think one provides an advantage to the fighter over the other in some regard?
Well, I think the major difference is, I'll be honest with you, I've trained in Thailand, and I've gone there many times and been to some of the top camps over there, and, it's an amazing, tough culture that they instill there also, kind of like what we do with our children with wrestling, they do with their children with Muay Thai. But I think one of the major differences that I've seen, the mental toughness is what it is. These are just 2 tough cultures. Right. The main difference is I think the wrestling community really emphasizes more of the strength and conditioning. Okay, this is big. This is a really big thing that I think the wrestlers really just go above and beyond everybody else and all other, let's say, quote-unquote, tough sports. They put that in there, and, learning from Pat and having quotes from him and watching him coach for all this time. And, at the end of the day, you can have the most technical fighter in the world, and you have somebody who's better conditioned and a better athlete, and just to grind him out. And little by little, that technique will fade, and the athleticism and that tenacity will overcome. And so that's the main difference I would see between the Thai culture, comparing it to Thailand, and like an American wrestler. They don't really emphasize so much on that endurance and the personal training and the stamina and all that stuff. They're in there, they're cracking pads and they're sparring and they're fighting. They're tough. Not to take anything away from them, but I would say that would be a slight gap on their part, you know what I mean, if they wanted to cross into MMA. Their conditioning for Thai, it's perfect. They've been doing it for a couple thousand years.
I'll tell you what, you're following my thought process. My last question was going to be the comparison between, where do you feel the barrier lies between technical ability versus, athleticism. Yeah. So, sometimes you have to say, so in your opinion, you feel that athleticism will eventually wear down or grind down that technical ability? You give a little more credence to that?
Well, I mean, in my opinion, I feel what we're seeing in the sport now is, as far as the secret mystical, say, jiu-jitsu technique or the secret boxing technique and the footwork that nobody's ever seen, I think that's starting to die down little by little. Everybody's almost pretty much accessible to the same knowledge, let's just say, in so many words. And now it's really, at that point, it's going to progress into your athlete, his work ethic and that sort of stuff. So, of course, there's always, certain training habits that other camps will have that they kind of keep to themselves and stuff like that. But as time goes on, that gets thinner and thinner, and now it really boils down to our athlete and their conditioning and their discipline at that point,
Very interesting insight.
That's my opinion.
Well, I think it's a very valued opinion considering where you've been and what you've done. So if we don't value that opinion, then we might as well just not talk about anything. Then I wanted to actually bring in one of your amateurs that's here with us,
Great
Ryan Peterson. How are you, Ryan?
I'm good. Thanks.
And Ryan has he's an amateur. He's been very
titles at the moment in amateur. He holds 2 titles.
Okay. And what titles are those, Ryan?
It's the WK World title from 2010. I won it over in Scotland. And then Barbarian Fight Club, 155.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now he's having his up-and-coming first professional fight.
Yep, he's having his debut soon and getting some good sparring in with some new sparring partners, and everything's going good. We're forming new relationships, and things are going great. It's a small community in New York, but I think the more we kind of like everybody gets along, and it's just better for the New York fighters, you know what I mean? So I just think the attitude is just to grow it together and just try not to be at each other's throat. We could save that for the cage.
Well, you know what? Where are you from originally, Ryan?
I'm from Long Island.
Okay, so we all know, as being New Yorkers from Long Island, that there is a tendency here in New York for people to be at each other's throats. So we're trying to adopt more of that laid-back, maybe California attitude of let's all work together and get along.
They got the right recipe. They definitely have the right recipe out there. They definitely do.
So if we could take that, if we could channel that New York mentality into this let's all get along and work together, what do you think we could produce, Ryan?
Top-level fighters. Absolutely. Anytime you go to your camp to spar, you're getting the best of their best, and it just benefits everybody.
Wonderful. So your up-and-coming first pro debut fight is when?
It's the 23rd in 1 week.
1 week. And how are you feeling currently?
Excellent.
Wonderful. I had an opportunity to see Ryan train, and he was actually working out with Christian Defiris from Alpha Omega Mixed Martial Arts. And and it was actually a great training session under the watchful eye of David here. And we're actually going to put together something nice for you, and you'll have an opportunity to watch it on MMASportsNet. David, I really want to thank you.
Thank you for coming in. I appreciate it. You're more than welcome. Come anytime.
Thank you, David. I appreciate it.
All right. I look forward to training. Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity, man. I hope I helped you out. Get ready for your fight. All right.
Thank you.
Just this one training session, I already picked up a few techniques from this guy, and I look forward to training him with him in the future.
A good future.
I'll be at your fight. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Well, this is Anthony Biondo with MMASportsNet, the network for fighters by fighters. I hope you enjoyed this spotlight of American Top Team here in Franklin Square, and we'll see you soon.